Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, thanks again for joining us for Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting tonight's show. Up first on the chart here is, if I can kick it along there, still expecting, excuse me, a warming trend this weekend with temperatures in the mid-60s around Anchorage today, and maps not advancing. Should reach mid-70s tomorrow with the warmest conditions. There we go. Again, the 64 today should reach the lower 70s tomorrow. This for Anchorage, and then mid-70s on Sunday, and possibly even 80 degrees next Monday, and then kind of holding pretty warm into the 70s right into the middle of next week. And not just for Anchorage, but a weather pattern developing that'll bring pretty warm, dry conditions just about all areas of south central and southern Alaska, as well as up in the central interior, Kuskokwim Valley, be seeing some warming conditions as well. On the satellite today, here's the area of clouds and showers that brought about 4/10 of an inch of rain, nearly half an inch to Talkeet in the last 24 hours, and over in the Copper River Basin at Gulkana, and some lingering showers back to the north brought 1 to 2/10 of an inch of rain up over the Tanana Valley, but you can see things clearing out behind it. Upper Yukon Valley, back over the Kobuk and Koyukuk Valley, seeing some sunshine today. And then that trailing edge of this system just dissipated as it dropped south over south central Alaska. Just some high stuff dropping down across Cook Inlet, skirting Kodiak Island. Otherwise sunshine there for Kodiak Island. Areas of sun along the Alaska Peninsula this afternoon as the lower cloud deck began to recede back to the north, and some partly to mostly cloudy conditions. There was some areas of sunshine, also some isolated showers here over the southeast coast with that dissipating band of moisture there. But this upper level system here coming into the southeast interior, now bringing the rain to the Wrangell Mountain areas, that's going to drop down into the southeast coast later tonight and tomorrow, and bring kind of a showery weekend shaping up for that area of the state. Otherwise, back to the west, you can see several bands coming inland off the Bering Sea here, bringing some moisture, and just a few hundredths of an inch of rain falling in the last 24 hours out in these areas here, but keeping it kind of cloudy and damp. And then the big storm way out here to the west, that brought the gale force winds into the central and western Aleutians today, with gusts to 40 to 45 miles per hour occurring there from south to north here, all the way up into the northwestern Bering Sea. And we'll see on the chart today, one trough bringing some damp conditions to St. Lawrence Island, and then the main front back out here to the west, and the gradient in advance of that. Again, gale force winds in the forecast for tonight and tomorrow for the central Aleutian areas, and actually pretty windy conditions, 15 to 30 mile per hour winds up across the northern Bering Sea, through the Bering Strait, and along the Chukchi Sea coast there over the west. In fact, those are going to increase over the next couple of days. Got 30 knot southerlies in the forecast for tomorrow there for the area from Wales to Cape Thompson, and gales out for Sunday for those areas, with 40 knot winds in the forecast for Saturday night. Otherwise, some showers here over the Brooks Range with that weak low and a trough extending back from that 1023 millibar center near Arctic Village, and the showers with this area of clouds here dropping southeastward, and again that moisture coming in off the Bering Sea, keeping it kind of cloudy and cool, and occasionally damp here back to the west right out to the coastline. In fact, nothing but clouds out over the Bering Sea. For tonight, that'll continue right up along the coastline, areas of fog with the strong southerly winds out here over the central Aleutians northward there, just catching St. Lawrence Island, then through the Bering Strait. See pretty windy conditions also for the western Arctic coast there, especially Point Ley southward, and then that southwest wind should make it pretty nice there along the central Arctic coast, keeping the low clouds and fog off the coastline there, but still a risk of some fog on the eastern Arctic coast there over toward Kaktovik and Barter Island. Otherwise, that system sliding southeastward here into Canada, bringing a chance of showers into the northern southeast coast late tonight, replaced by building high pressure up to 1,037 millibars. That kicking the winds up at Northway this afternoon, 15 to 25 miles per hour out of the northwest. So it could be pretty breezy across the Copper River Basin areas during the evening hours and night tonight, but light winds back to the west, light winds down for Kodiak Island, light winds for the southeast coast, so some partly to mostly cloudy skies there, and still have the gale warnings out with this front as it approaches or it stays in the western Aleutians there. Really, it's parallel to the wind flow here, so it's not going to really make much movement, just kind of oscillate east and west with each wave that develops and rolls northward. We'll see for tomorrow that front advances a little bit to the east, but not much there. Keeps the gale force winds across the Adak-Atka areas, northward into the Bering Sea. Pretty brisk winds out for St. Lawrence Island, the Bering Strait areas, as well as the Kivalina to Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, up to Point Lay areas, and then dropping back as you head over toward Barrow. Light variable winds on the eastern Arctic coast, and nothing but high pressure here over the interior, so that's going to begin to warm things up in the Susitna Valley, looking for highs tomorrow into the upper 70s and into the lower to mid 70s here through the interior valleys. And North Gulf Coast, sunny skies, again, that north to south wind flow there, bringing sunshine right down to the coastline. Seward into the 70s tomorrow, Valdez, same thing, possibly even Cordova. But upper level disturbance here settling in over the southeast coast is going to keep it cool and showery tomorrow and tomorrow night, and possibly even Sunday as well. But still looking at extensive area of fog and low clouds here along the coast for Sunday, with the high pressure at the surface settling in here right along the coastline. So low clouds and fog from the Bering Strait all the way down Nunivak Island along the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. But VFR conditions, sunshine here on the Pacific side. Kodiak Island, 2 sunny days coming up. Sunshine, northwest winds, mild temperatures, and even hotter conditions. The Susitna Valley areas, Talkeetna could see a high of 85 degrees on Sunday, and definitely well into the 70s, the lower 80s here across southern Alaska. About the same thing, maybe not quite as warm, but definitely into the 70s here up over the interior valleys. That disturbance brings a chance of rain to the eastern Arctic coast, actually overnight tomorrow night, western Arctic coast, and then I'll slide eastward with a chance of rain, fog, and drizzle there crossing the eastern coastline, then drying out behind it, but that strong southwest wind flow there, keeping the gale force winds in the forecast there for the northwest coast, as well as Cape Lisburne and Point Hope. Also a chance of rain from there through the Bering Strait to St. Lawrence Island, but this front getting pretty narrow now, and actually edging back to the west is a warm front a little bit there, so just a lot of moisture coming up around this high into the central Aleutian areas there from about Nikolsky back toward Adak, and then mostly rain from Adak over toward Shemya. But again, nothing but sunshine here across much of the central interior, even back to the northwest, looking pretty good there with mostly sunny skies to the Noatak, Kobuk, Koyukuk Valley areas, western North Slope, and Arctic coast looking pretty good. And still one band of moisture giving in the showers now in over the southern southeast coast, kind of a break, partly sunny skies in areas here, but still enough unsettled conditions to keep a few showers around even through Sunday there for the southeast coast. And temperatures down that way today, mostly in the 50s, or just about all in the 50s, 55 at Klawock, same thing at Petersburg and Wrangell, 56 in Juneau. Skagway was up to 58 today, and a 54-degree reading at Sitka. Yakutat and Cordova, both with 55, 57 in Valdez, and then the rain, and 53 degrees in Gulkana. 55 in those gusty northwest winds, as I mentioned, up to 25 miles an hour at Northway. A cooler 50 degrees back at Delta, then back up to 55 at Fairbanks in the Susitna Valley. Not nearly as warm as it's going to be over the next couple of days. Talkeetna at 59 degrees, Anchorage at 64. Add 10 to 15 degrees of warming to that for tomorrow, and then possibly another 5 to 10 degrees warming to that on Sunday, with temperatures in the mid to upper 50s this afternoon through the central interior. That's Tanana 57, Bettles, 54 degrees there in the Koyukuk Valley, and Fort Yukon at 57, a cool 48 at Anatuvik, 50 degrees over at Arctic Village. Along the Arctic coast, not too bad, mid-40s there at Barrow, 51 at Atasuk, and up to 50 degrees over at Deadhorse. Otherwise lower to mid-40s along the western Arctic coast down in toward Noatak with 46, 51 in Kotzebue, 57 there across the sound at Buckland, and 40 degrees there at Nome, while Golovin pushed up to 45. Same thing both at Unalakleet and also 45 at St. Michael and Ammonik, as well as Macoriac, all coming in with 45 this afternoon. McGrath up to 54, upper 40s again, that westerly wind flow keeping the clouds in the marine layer in well inland, right up to the Kuskokwim Mountains there at the 40s, and 43 down at Cape Newenham. Mid-40s there for the Pribilofs, and same thing for the Central Aleutians, 43 out at Shimia. And for the Alaska Peninsula, upper 40s to lower 50s, although Sand Point in the sunshine today had 61 degrees, and not too bad mid-50s here for the Alaska Peninsula. Kodiak, sunshine, 56 degrees with just a few high clouds. For the lows tonight, mostly in the mid-upper 40s here for the Panhandle, and in the mid-upper 40s also here over south central Alaska. Some areas of the Copper River Basin dropping into the mid-30s, lower to mid-30s there. In the wind-sheltered areas, up in the Tanana Valley, kind of cool, mid to upper 30s to lower to mid-40s up across that area, and upper 30s to lower 40s across the Kobuk, Koyukuk, and upper Yukon Valley areas. Lows in the 30s there for the Arctic coast, although edging down a little below freezing on the east side. Otherwise, 30s to lower 40s back over the northwest interior, and highs for tomorrow. There's the warming into the upper 70s there for the Susitna Valley. That's Talkeetna with a forecast high of 77. Into the upper 60s to lower 70s here for Cook Inlet and the Kenai Peninsula areas. Again, the North Gulf Coast, Cordova could reach 68 degrees, and then also over the southeast coast, warmer than today forecast, even with the showers moving in, lower to mid-60s. Of course, you're going to develop a northerly wind offshore flow there, but again, lows or highs for tomorrow still in the 50s out over the Alaska Peninsula to eastern Aleutian areas. Otherwise, for the Pribilofs and the Adak-Atka areas in the 40s. Flying weather, IFR here from the Point Hope, Cape Lisburne area, southward right through the Bering Strait to western St. Lawrence Island, cutting southward here to the Bering Sea for Atka. Marginal VFR, call it IFR for Adak, and that'll extend all the way back out to Shimia, with marginal VFR with the low clouds and fog here, Norton Sound, all along the southwest coast, and then in across Bristol Bay. But northern Bristol Bay should be in the VFR, while the Alaska Peninsula is looking mostly VFR tomorrow, with marginal VFR for the eastern Aleutians, and then an area of cloudiness here with the moisture keeping some marginal VFR possibilities right along the outer coastline of the Panhandle, but should be VFR here for all of the southeast coast, and then VFR conditions for Kodiak Island, the North Gulf Coast, northward across the interior all the way to the eastern Arctic coast. Again, VFR flying both tomorrow and Sunday as well. Passes, two-day forecast as well. Anatuvik VFR and Adigan VFR. Lake Clark and Merrill both tomorrow and Sunday. VFR on either approach. Windy, rainy remaining open. Windy also VFR both north and south entrances. Isabel VFR. And for Mentasta, VFR flying conditions through that pass, as well as Tanita, both Saturday and Sunday. These passes all staying VFR. In some cases, ceilings and visibilities will be unlimited. Freezing levels showing some warming, still kind of the cooling aloft here, the upper level system dropping down into the Panhandle, so about 6,000 to 8,000 feet there, but building upper level high here out over the Bering Sea. South to north flow, again, those southerly winds pulling that warm air quite 10,000 feet, almost up to St. Lawrence Island, 8,000 feet into the Chukchi Sea, and 12,000 feet just south of the eastern Aleutians. Icing threats way out to the west there, again, western St. Lawrence Island, Adak and Atka, mostly of the rime variety, below about 20,000 feet, otherwise icing free here through the interior areas, maybe some skirting the northwest coast, but not too much. And then with that upper level system and showery conditions, could be a little bit of icing there over the northern and central Panhandle. And at the 33,000 foot wind flow chart here showing strong high pressure building over the Bristol Bay area, the center, Northerly winds coming down, just the perfect pattern to bring hot, dry conditions to nearly all areas of south central Alaska here over the weekend. That upper level low settling in over the southeast coast there, keeping it kind of cool and unsettled there through the weekend, with another system hanging back to the west, and this high is going to hold and direct everything up to the north. 9,000-foot winds, pretty brisk at this level, up to 50 knots through the central Aleutians, 35 knots from the south-southwest of the Pribilofs. Same thing, St. Lawrence Island, and then 50 knots there up across Point Hope and Cape Lisburne, but dropping off dramatically here under the ridge. Light variable winds, northerlies 5 to 15 knots here along the North Gulf Coast, but up to 25 knots over the northern panhandle there, and then kind of down and along the coast with lighter winds over the inside water areas. 3,000-foot winds showing north to northwest, 10 to 20 knots here along the southeast coast, with lighter, more variable wind conditions under high pressure and over the interior. And then those southerly winds, again, up to 50 knots right up into the central Bering Sea, 35 knots to the Pribilofs, 35 to 40 knot winds there right up through the Bering Strait, and again to the northwest coast there, where the gale warnings will be out for tomorrow and again on Sunday. Lighter winds off to the east. And turbulence, look for some occasional moderate chop there at Cape Lisburne and Point Hope, and also for western St. Lawrence Island, and a pretty big band here right through the central Bering Sea down to the central Aleutians, but no significant turbulence at all expected here from Kodiak Island northward to the Arctic coast. Look for some mechanical turbulence here across portions of the Panhandle, especially out along the coastline and up through northern Lynn Canal and the Glacier Bay areas. And after hangar flying, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
Good evening, I'm Harry Keeling, and on behalf of the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and Alaska Public Media, welcome to Hangar Flying. This evening, our guest is Mark Lucan. Mark was first on our show back in 2010 as the Deputy Commissioner of Aviation, Department of Transportation for the state of Alaska. A year later, he was on the show as the Department Commissioner. Now he's back once again as the Commissioner. Mark, it's an honor to have you back on the show.
Thank you, Harry. It's great to be back.
Mark, on a previous show, I highlighted your impressive Air Force flying and staff credentials, and I'd just like to take a minute to repeat those. U.S. Air Force Academy, T-37 instructor, A-10 F-15 Strike Eagle, 4 tours in Europe, Air Liaison Officer in Desert Storm, and your last assignment in the Air Force was as the Vice Commander at 11th Air Force at Elmendorf, where you got to fly the C-12. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. It's been 5 years already. I can't believe it's been that long.
Isn't it? Yeah. Earlier this year, you were brought in as the DOT Commissioner, and I know there are a lot of things going on. Maybe we could start with something that's on a lot of people's minds, the budget. Can you share some of the perspective from the DOT Commissioner's chair?
You bet. Yes, and thank you for that question. I think, we're still at the point where we don't have a final budget, and the challenge for our department is recognizing that we could have up to a $34 million cut in our operating budget, which really is mostly going to impact our service lines of business. So that is going to make some challenges for us, but I think the thing we recognize is especially for these communities where the airport, the runway is really their only form of transportation, we have to hold that harmless, and we have to continue to maintain those runways, those airports, so that we can continue to bring in, the supplies, the services that the folks in our smaller communities need.
So elaborate a little bit on maybe, I don't know if this is the worst case scenario where that you mentioned $34 million. What would that look? What's the worst case scenario? What it would look like out in the bush?
Well, I think worst case scenario is we're just not going to be able to get out to do some of the repairs that we typically do, at least at the using our state resources. We're still going to have contracts to keep the runways clear and those type of things, but we're just going to be limited in the frequency maybe that we have to provide some of the maintenance that we're typically able to do on a little more regular basis.
Okay. One of your big efforts out there is the aviation system plan. Can you tell our audience what it is and yeah, just a little bit about it?
Sure, yeah. Well, it's actually something that was started in about 2010, 2011. It's been around several years already, and it's maturing each year as we, because we're out gathering information, and we're trying to put it in one central location, and so we've been doing that now for about 4 years. But it also allows us to set priorities for where our funding needs to go. We've been updating our airport layout plans on a systematic basis, and then we're also using that to help us set policy as we gather the data. And I think we have a website here where your viewers can look up and actually join this
it's on the screen
aviation
now.
System Plan. So yes, the Alaska Aviation System Plan is what it's known as, and there's the web address right there for folks to really go in and see what we've been doing.
Now, did you mention that people have to create an account or they have to log in, or is it just?
No, actually, that website doesn't require an account. You can go in, but you could potentially subscribe as well and actually get some more detailed information.
So, would it be fair to call this a strategic plan?
I would say so. Yes, because again, you know, we have a pretty huge system, and it really is going to take a strategic level thought to. And action and plan to continue to move this system forward.
Mark, we've got about a minute left. I want to get you back on because there's a couple other things I definitely want to talk to you about, and I think the audience would be interested in. So maybe any other things to wrap up the aviation system plan, and then we'll get you back on to talk a little bit more about some of your visions for Alaska.
Yeah. Well, I think again, the value of the system plan is it gives us the opportunity to really, you know, prioritize the work, if you will, for the airports that have the greatest needs, and that's the other thing that we're using that for, is to identify the needs out there.
Great, thank you. Thanks for being on the program tonight. Look forward to having you on next time. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed tonight's program. In fact, I would ask you to go to our website, aasfonline.com, and let me know if you have any suggestions on the program we had tonight, or if you have any suggestions for future programs. I'd like to hear from you. And in the meantime, fly safe.
Looking at the sea ice, well, warming temperatures and southerly winds will continue to melt the sea ice here in Kotzebue Sound. In fact, the sound is expected to become sea ice free on Monday, and then the southerly winds on up to the north here, that's going to melt and retreat the ice edge back about 15 to 30 nautical miles from its position today by next Wednesday. On to the marine forecast there for the southeast coast tomorrow. Northwest winds, 20 knots, about sums it up here, all along the outer coastline. Higher gusts over the inside waters, 20 to 25 knot northerlies here. Stevens Passage with the strongest winds, small craft advisories for northern Lynn Canal. Northwest at 20 with 4-foot seas for Clarence Strait. And then even stronger winds, northerlies at 30 knots there in the forecast for northern Lynn Canal on Sunday, but lighter winds out along the coast, northerlies to northwest 10 to 15 knots, a little stronger on the north coast, and lighter winds for Clarence Strait from the northwest at about 15. And for Prince William Sound tomorrow, northwest winds at about 15 knots. Excuse me, northwesterlies at 20 knots for the North Gulf Coast, and small craft advisories here for the Kamishak Bay area down across the Barren Islands. Westerlies 15 to 20 knots for Kodiak Island. Light variable winds for northern Cook Inlet to northerlies at 10 for the Central Inlet. And then for Sunday, light variable winds here for all of the North Gulf Coast. Northerlies at 10 knots for Prince William Sound. North to northeast at 10 knots here for Cook Inlet. Now northwest coming down to 15 knots from those small craft advisories for tomorrow there for Barren Islands, Kamishak Bay. For the Alaska Peninsula, tomorrow, variable winds on the Pacific side at 10 knots to southeast 15 on the Bering Sea side. Light west winds for Bristol Bay, as well as the waters southwest of Kodiak Island. Not much change here, staying light and variable for the wind conditions on the Pacific side of the peninsula. Northerlies at about 15 knots, so that'll push some low clouds right down to the coastline there on Sunday. And for the Aleutians, gales here for the central Aleutians, 25 to 35 knot winds, and then for the Fox Islands, mostly south or south-southeast at about 20 knots, lighter southwesterlies there for the western zone. That becomes light and variable at 10 knots for Sunday, with southeast winds 25 to 30 knots now for the central Aleutians, southeasterly winds 20 to 25 knots for the Fox Islands, with those seas running 5 to 7 feet out there, up to 12 feet here for the central areas. And for the southwest coast, south of Nunivak Island, light southwest winds, but small craft advisories here north of the island, 25 to 30 knot winds across the northern Bering Sea as well. The Pribilofs, southerlies 20 to maybe 25 knots with seas at about 10 feet, so small craft advisories just due to the sea heights. And then southeast 25 for the next day, 20 to 30 knot southerly winds here for the northern Bering Sea. Up along the Arctic coast, we've got southwesterlies at 20 knots for the central and eastern coast, south 15 for the far eastern stretch of the coastline there. 30 knot winds from Wales up to Cape Lisburn, over to about Point Ley, then from there northward dropping back to about 20 knots. And then those become gales, actually 40 knots here forecast for tomorrow night, and then falling back to 35 knots on Sunday with gale force winds, again right up to about Point Ley. Small craft advisories now, so the winds picking up along the central coast there, but staying light here on the east side, west to southwest, only at 15 knots. And for tonight, again, showers over the Wrangell Mountains, maybe the western upper Yukon Valley areas down in, starting to increase over the northern panhandle, otherwise high pressure building into the interior. Fair skies and mostly light winds. The front out here with the gusty winds, gale force winds, and rain stays parked out here in the central Bering and the Aleutians, just skirting St. Lawrence Island. Impulses of moisture and wind rotating up across the Chukchi Sea, both tomorrow and Sunday, with kind of a hard to find boundary here, still indicated from about Cape Lisburn southward through the Bering Strait. Warm front with rain out over the west central Aleutians, still cloudy and damp here for the eastern areas. Could be a nice day though for Unalaska. Sunny and warmer conditions, again highs in the 70s to mid 80s over the interior valleys, and kind of cool and showery over the southeast coast. Have a great weekend.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX brief for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.